We are here in Acton, Massachusetts, December of 2015. Acton is a town just west of Concord, and many people, historians of the famous Battle of Lexington Concord, they probably don't know that many of the Acton militiamen, especially the Minutemen, responded to the alarm and were involved in the battle at Concord Bridge. And what you're looking at is the original plow that was used as a model for the famous Minuteman Statue that is in Concord, Massachusetts, right by the bridge, the Old North Bridge, owned by Captain Isaac Davis. So this is Captain Isaac Davis's plow, and Daniel Chester French, now we're talking over 150 or so years later, was able to get this and use it as the model for the famous statue. You'll see that on the U.S. quarter, the 2000 Massachusetts U.S. quarter, you'll see this the Minuteman statue. So I'm here with my good friend Daniel McGonigal, who is an expert on the subject of the militia, not just the history of the militia, but also the need to revitalize the militia. And when we say militia, we must qualify it, right, Dan? We're not talking about a bunch of middle-aged guys running to the woods with ARs. We're talking about the constitutional militia that Congress, under the Constitution, is supposed to ensure that it exists. So we're going to read the little statement here, a little plaque. On the morning of April 19, 1775, Captain Isaac Davis left his farm, his wife, and 4 children, and led the Acton Company, or Minutemen, over the narrow back country road to Concord and the hill overlooking the North Bridge. Captain Davis's company was the first to volunteer to defend the bridge against the British. He, along with a neighbor's boy, Abner Hosmer, fell in the first volley. So he was one of the first casualties of our nation's history. Now, of course,
after the invasion at Lexington.
That's correct. Yes.
The British
yes.
Army marched to Concord.
That's right.
He fell. The captain of the Acton militia fell at the Concord Bridge.
So there was about 7 or 8 fatalities at Lexington Battle Green, and this was just several hours afterwards.
Right.
In fact, if you on that Monday, closest to April 19th, they do a wonderful reenactment of that famous battle here, and not just in Lexington but also in Concord.
Acton was one of many surrounding towns in Middlesex County that marched to Concord upon the alarm that the British were coming out.
And these were very well organized.
The regulars were coming out.
The regulars were coming out, that's correct. Because pretty much everybody was of British extraction.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so we just thought there would be a lot of folks who love history aren't really familiar with this. But this town hall is open sort of regular hours, 9 to 5. It's right off of Route 2 on Route 27. So I'd recommend, on your history, a little off the beaten trail. A lot of people will go to the Lexington Battle Green and the Concord Bridge, but they're not familiar with this. So I do recommend it. And remember that the Constitution, where does the Constitution just say we're not supposed to have a militia? We're supposed to have one. And we don't. We have something called the National Guard, which is a real what's the right word to describe what it's become? Legal fiction, a shell of itself. There is no militia
That's good. Yeah.
under the U.S. Constitution,
Right.
and it's the job of citizens to work to understand this and to appreciate the need to reinstitute.
Militia word mentioned 6 times in 5 clauses in the Constitution and Bill of Rights.
Right?
In the 150 years pre-Constitution, going back to the early middle 1600s, statutes, everything was by statute, colonial and then provincial statute, up through to during the war, Revolutionary War, or War of Independence, when the state constitutions started being written.
That's right.
And everything was by statute, pre-constitution, pre-state constitution, and pre-federal constitution. And then the federal constitution added gave federal powers, additional federal powers to the state militia.
That's right.
To execute the laws
And pick up a state copy of your own state constitution and see how many
Yeah.
times it may be mentioned. Okay, well, thank you. And for more information on this topic, Dan's book, Execute the Laws to Restore the Republic, is on Amazon, also campconstitution.net. And if you go to YouTube and put in Edwin Vieira, Dr. Edwin Vieira, who is some people say one of, but he's probably the most well-known constitutional scholar, or the most profound constitutional scholar in the United States, perhaps the world, and anything he's done on the subject is well worth looking into. So thank you. Well, here we are, right next door from Town Hall is the Acton Library, and here you will find a lot of great history about Isaac Davis and the Militia Company. And here's a quote from Isaac Davis: "I haven't a man that is afraid to go." And here you see a plaque here. The Acton Minuteman Company, led by Captain Isaac Davis, was among the first to engage British troops at the North Bridge in Concord. And there's a painting. Now, Isaac Davis was a gunsmith, and his Minuteman Company was well armed and well trained. And here you see some artifacts. You see the bayonet sword here carried by Captain Davis, and some other artifacts from members of that militia unit. And here is Isaac's widow many years later, portrait of her in 1841. And over here is another, the Davis Guard. So the militia is quite a history. I'm just going to read the plaque here. Local militias continue to exist in Massachusetts after the Revolution. Men between 18 and 45 were required to join. They drilled regularly and chose officers and kept themselves in a state of readiness. Of course, under the U.S. Constitution, it was up to Congress to make sure that the states had a militia entity. It was supposed to make sure they were equipped, they were trained, and ready to be used. The young country once again resisted England in the War of 1812. This time, Acton's militia called itself the Davis Blues in honor of Isaac Davis. They marched in defense of Boston. In 1835, the Davis Blues became part of the Massachusetts Militia Regular Light Infantry. In 1840, the company was absorbed into the 4th Regiment and ceased to exist as a distinct unit. On April 19, 1851, a volunteer militia company was organized in Acton as ordered by the governor. This group chose to be known as the Davis Guards. In 1855, it became Company E of the 6th Regiment of Massachusetts Volunteer Militia. The Davis Guards existed as a company throughout the Civil War. The headquarters remained in Acton until December of 1873, when it moved to Marlborough. And there's some a plaque there, not the original one, I don't think. It looks like a replica. Organized in April. Good date to choose, April 19th. So, folks, the people say, well, you're not allowed to use the M word, when it was quite evident that our history is replete of militia. And over here, most people don't realize that Abraham Lincoln issued a proclamation calling for militias, calling for their states to bring militias to be used to put down, referred to as rebellion.